Our first guest is Dr. Jasmin Gupta. I've been following her on LinkedIn for quite some time, and I was inspired by what all she's associated with and what she works for. So, she's currently the founder and CEO of MEIT Money. Previously, she's worked for HDFC, Kotak, and Equitas Small Finance Bank. She's a 4x TEDx speaker and been recognized as one of the top 75 leaders in India by the United Nations. Um, she's also currently associated with the Indian Institute of Sustainability and the Indian FinTech Forum. So it's just amazing to have you with us, Dr. Jasmin. Welcome to the webinar.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I just like to ask you that you're a strong advocate of financial education and inclusiveness. How did that come about? How did that start for you?
Actually, when I was working with Kotak Mahindra Bank, I decided to do my PhD. And you'll be happy to know that the topic of my PhD was financial inclusion and digitalization.
Okay.
So this was one theme. Of course, it took me 5 years to complete all the research. But while doing the research, I realized that financial inclusion, and specifically financial inclusion of women, is one area that needs a lot of focus, not just by the industry, but also by the government, also by the social sector. So there's so much to do. And if I have to share certain statistics, I think the World Bank comes out with its global FinTech data, which talks about financial inclusion across all the 190 plus countries in the world. And India, if you see the journey, in fact, the journey which coincided with my PhD thesis as well, 2014, India was at 40% financial inclusion to what it is right now at 80-85%. I think that entire decade has been doubling up of financial inclusion growth in our country that we have seen. Of course, a lot more because of the mission drive of Jandan and the famous JAM framework, the Jandan Aadhaar Mobile. But I think even now, when we say it's 80%, I think there's so much more to do, because what Jandan did is it gave a bank account to every individual in the country.
Right.
But today, if you look at the new statistics, it says that most of these bank accounts are lying dormant. People are not using these services. So it's good to give access to services, access to finance to people, but I think it's just half of the story. The other half of the story gets completed only when people are able to use all the financial services, right? And so financial inclusion is a wide subject. It is not just about a bank account. It includes investments, it includes access to credit, it includes insurance. And that entire 360 degree of financial inclusion is what we see lacking. And especially in women, it is even 10 to 15% lower than the numbers that we see on a larger scale. So there's a lot of work that is to be done by all of us there. So that's the subject, which was, of course, the interest started academically, and then I did pursue it professionally as well.
Okay, that's great. That's a great initiative that you've taken. So next I'd like to ask you is, you've moved from traditional banking at HDFC to digital banking, and then you've played a key role in launching two neobanks in India, India's first two neobanks, digital banks, which were NeoX and FreeOSave. So how did that come about? How did you transition from one to the other?
I think it was a gradual progression, and while I started with core banking, the traditional way, So started as branch banking. I was the youngest branch manager in the country at HDFC Bank. At 25, 26, I became a branch manager. So I think efforts and hard work were rewarded in organizations like HDFC Bank or Kotak Mahindra Bank. Of course, they were extremely professional organizations. Having said that, I think I was not the kind of person who was happy doing the same thing or happy climbing the same ladder, because I've seen so many of my colleagues who are, still in that ladder at some point in the ladder. So what I feel is that maybe I could not see myself doing the same thing over and over again. And I wanted to explore newer areas. I wanted to explore new technologies coming in the space. So while I was constantly learning, because that's something that I've done along with working, where I did my PhD also along with working, I realized that digitalization is going to be the game changer going forward, and traditional banking is not going to remain the same as it is. Hence, I moved from traditional banking to digital banking. Again, digital banking has been a great experience. I used to head digital banking at Equitas, and not many people know that one of the first financial service to go live on a Google Play platform as a Google Spot was the fixed deposit of Equitas Bank, which we had launched, right? So that was again an industry first initiative, along with starting neobanks such as Neoax and Fio. Neoax again was one of the first digital banks, along with Jupiter, to come into the market space around 2021. And I would say that was the time when COVID was already in India. That was the time when people had transitioned to digital. And I think that was the right time for any digital format banks to come up in India. So, having said that, I think the right timing and the right ecosystem, the right support system, everything played a role. And NeoX was launched again, a super success, I would say. In 9 months, we opened 1 million accounts, which is a world record for any neobank or any digital bank, the fastest growth rate that we have seen. So, while we were launching new ads or collaborating with Google Play for new innovations in finance, that was the time when I also got introduced to the world of FinTech. And what interested me a lot is the impact that you can make from the other side of the table can be really remarkable, can be really huge. And that's why I moved from a banking setup to a FinTech ecosystem. Started with co-founder of Lakshmi, which is India's first financial platform for women, of course, because it was built on something which was very close to my heart, which was again financial inclusion, women empowerment, and of course FinTech and digitalization. Right. So that's how I think the transitions have happened, and I'm very happy with the way things have shaped up. And I think it's not just individual effort. I think it's organizational effort. It's also the environment and the government effort and support that makes a lot of these initiatives successful. For example, when we talk of all the initiatives of NPCI also coming in at the right time, giving us all the necessary tools for coming out with newer innovations. I think that entire ecosystem coming together and innovating is the beauty of the whole thing. Now, so that's how my journey has shaped up, and I think going forward, I would like my journey to get shaped up again, similar ways, serendipitously. Yeah.
Yes, there's something I read about you being involved in Peher Sangini also, where you were involved in empowering rural women. So that was also
so that was a platform where we built again India's first financial inclusion platform is how I named that platform.
Yeah.
Because Sangini especially is for not for all the women, but it is actually for the lower or the lowest segment of women that we cater
Yes.
to. So when we talk of microfinance as a segment, of course, it is about the lowest segment of women who are working in the unorganized sector, and women who, of course, need credit. So the entire microfinance industry, I think the 95% of customers are women, and that entire group lending or peer lending model has been working very well, I think fantastically well for the last 20, 25 years in our country. Of course, there have been ups and downs in the industry, but the industry will, of course, has been resilient over a period of time. So Sangeeni is one platform where we built enabled access to credit, and not just credit, but also insurance and also an e-commerce built into the platform, so that we are offering not just finance but also products which are very aspirational for this category of women. Like, for example, the products that we are very much used to, like a refrigerator is very common in the house, but if you go to villages or tier 4 cities, it's not so common. So
That's
for a woman to get a refrigerator in the house is also a financial planning that she needs to put in, saving, or maybe a credit, and then maybe plan for it, right? So making their lives easier by offering credit on certain products which are not luxury products anymore, but are a necessity for women to actually get out of the house and making their life easier. I think that was what the story of Sangeeni was all about.
Okay. So you mentioned the role, the support that you had while along throughout this journey. So what would you like? Who were your role models, or what kind of support did you get to actually go through this journey smoothly?
I think a lot of mentors,
To admire.
a lot of role models. Um Many people actually help us achieve what we want to achieve, and this is something that I always say to all the young people in the world, that you need to have the right mentors, you need to have the right sponsors, and it takes effort to actually get people to mentor you and get the right people to mentor you. So I think mentorship is important, especially in the early stages of your career. And then I think the next important thing is also your own ability to take risks, because if you want to do newer things, if you want to explore newer avenues, if you want to create new chapters of your professional life, I think the most important thing is you have to keep taking risk. And when you are inclined towards taking a lot of risk, changing your profile, and trying out new things, you are bound to fail also. So these are the times, the ups and downs of your career, where I think you need your mentors the most. And there is one advice that I definitely remember from one of my mentor, is that he mentioned that you need to plan for the long term, because a career is a 40-year marathon.
Yes.
And you're not even halfway. So you need to plan it in such a way that you know how and what you want to achieve in the long term. So that's one advice that has stayed with me till now, and definitely I would like to share it with all the viewers. I think that's one thing which is very important, even for people who are starting in their careers, that 40-year career is not something that you can take casually, and you need to plan well. Of course, there will be a lot of opportunities that will come as and when on their own, but of course you need to be ready for those opportunities as well.
Keep evolving at every stage. While talking about support, I remembered of one of these speeches I saw of yours at a TEDx, where you said you brought your mother also, and your mother actually helped you like in public speaking and a lot many other things. Like, they didn't just push you to study, they pushed you to do many other things, which is how you're great at speaking. You've learned 3 languages, and you're also a Bharatanatyam dancer. So I was surprised to actually know these facts about you. So yeah, I
Yes,
think
in fact,
your mother
I always
is
say
more.
that if I had not been a banker, I would have become a dancer for sure. Because, of course, I started with Bharatanatyam and then I think I learned a lot of other dances, a lot of folk dance competitions in France, Spain, Germany, Japan. And also, I learned a lot of other international dance forms like salsa, flamenco, etc.
Oh,
So, yes, that's been a passion that I would have loved to pursue. Yeah. So that's one thing. But yes, I think my mother has played a very important role in helping me shape my career. In fact, she was a teacher, she was running her own school, and
oh,
of course, she had to give it up with three kids growing. And then I think that's one advice that she gave me early on, or when I was still a student, was that if you should definitely build your career no matter what.
yeah,
And if you want to build your career, that's one thing that she told me: don't read Mills and Boons. That's one thing that I think in colleges, that was the time when everybody was used to reading the way everybody tells. I think parents these days tell kids not to get digitally involved in
yeah,
games or digitally involved in mobile phones, because otherwise that is going to ruin your career. So that's one advice my mom said: don't get involved so much into fiction that you lose focus on your career. So that's one advice, of course, has stayed forever. Though definitely now I have time to go over and read fiction. But yes, thanks to her, many people have just one career in their lifetime. I have been fortunate enough to have multiple careers. I would say by now I have three careers in one career. I have been a banker and an entrepreneur and an academician so far. So yeah, it's been very fulfilling and satisfying.
yeah. That's great to know. Okay, so something I really wanted to ask you is what are two practical tips for better money management that you would like to give for somebody just starting out with investing?
I think there is a very famous rule of 50, 30, 20,
Yes.
right? Where and I think that rule applies very well for someone who's just starting up or just starting investing, just started the first job, where you spend, of course, 50% on your needs, 30% on your wants, which is, of course, luxury items. Needs are, of course, your rent and grocery and all that. And
Right.
20% is something that you compulsorily save no matter what is your first salary, right? So I think the rule is a good rule. However, most of the times, as far as investment is concerned, I think it's good to know the rules. But for every individual, it's important that you create your own rules and create your own investment style. So for someone who does not have too many family or household responsibilities early on in the career, maybe 70%, 80% can be the saving rate, maybe 50% can be the saving rate. So depends on each situation, but of course
Yeah,
better to know the rules so that you know that you are on the right track.
that's true. Um, so this was for the money management part for people just starting out in their career. What would you say about the the trajectory that somebody just starting out should follow, or maybe some pointers that they can adhere to in their career span?
I think again there is a rule there, which is 100 minus your age is what they say should be. That's how you should allocate your equity and debt ratio. Because
Oh,
if you're young, right, you're just 20, then 80% of your corpus you can afford to invest into stock market or risk bearing instruments. And as you keep growing, as you grow older, of course the allocation towards debt or towards fixed income should start. While this is the general rule, again, I would say rules. It's good to know the rules, but form your own rules, right?
right. Um, like your career spans 20 years. There are a lot of people whose career is maybe they're at a 20-year career. span or a 25-year career span, and many people tend to face stagnancy when it comes to how do they like take the next step, how do they move ahead in their career, because there comes a stage where there are not much roles to explore. Um, so what would you say, like how should people deal with stagnancy in their career?
See, I have a very different opinion with respect to stagnancy, and I think it depends on person to person, it differs. Um, Stagnancy can also be considered stability. So, for some people, stability is a very, very important requirement, right? Yeah. So, there's nothing wrong in people who are sticking to one role and growing in one particular segment. So, for example, I know a lot of colleagues who started their journey with retail banking and are still doing branch banking. They've moved up from branch manager to area manager and cluster manager and region manager and zonal manager and Pradhan international manager. And that's the trajectory they follow, which is safe, secure, comfortable, and stable. Nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
Yeah, and there are people, say for example, me, who is not okay with doing the same thing again and again, and would want to explore maybe newer things and try out different options. So I think it all depends on person to person what suits each person better. I have never faced stagnancy because I've changed multiple roles. Because from branch banking, I moved to even learning and development. I moved to digital banking. I moved to FinTech. I moved to academics. So there have been so many transitions, and I think I didn't have time for a stagnancy or to think about it. Yes. But having said that, I think stability is also a good option. There's nothing wrong with that. At the same time, risk taking is also a good option for people who really want to do different things and have multiple careers within their career.
That's true. Okay, something like AI has entered almost every field today. What would you say? How has AI or even just digitization has shaped the fintech industry? How do you see AI shaping the fintech industry from now on?
I think AI has played a very important role in a lot of segments related to fintech specifically, or even banking specifically. For example, predictive analytics or predictive AI has been around, and banks and fintechs have been using it for improvising customer experience and their customer engagement programs. Similarly, I think generative AI coming in has brought in a lot of newer content and newer ways of connecting with their customers and chatbots, improvising the chatbots. So I think predictive AI and generative AI both combined together have also brought in a lot of improvements in the customer experience that banks and fintechs can offer. Having said that, I think AI is also playing a very important role in fraud management, risk management,
yes,
and even a lot of credit scoring models are also getting evolved through AI. So I think it's just a matter of time that AI will impact a lot of the BFSI segments, whether banks, NBFCs, or fintechs. And I think the operational jobs, which are routine jobs day in and day out, may definitely be taken over by AI in days to come. Right. And I think even the creative jobs, because with generative AI, there's so much of creative content that is being created that a lot of, I think, while creativity, AI used for creativity may still be an enabler kind of an impact in the industry, but definitely the repetitive kind of jobs will get lost to AI. So of course, AI is here to stay. There are a lot of benefits as I can see.
Yes.
And there have been a lot of innovations that are continuously happening, whether it is blockchain integration or whether there are new profitability models or card models or credit models that are getting evolved because of AI. I think the future is going to be AI enabled, is how I would put it.
Yes.
Not necessarily AI driven, but definitely
Mhm.
we all need AI to
Yeah,
make our work better.
that's true. Something while reading about you, I something came to my mind that there's a ratio gap in fintech. Like there are not like traditionally there have not been many women who've been there in finance and then tech, and then you are in fintech. So, what are your opinions on women navigating? Do you think there's still a stereotype towards women in this industry? How was it during your career trajectory? And do you just think women are still navigating different expectations when it comes to the fintech industry?
Um, I think for the entry level jobs, I definitely see a lot of women
Yes.
um, interested in joining fintechs or learning things related to fintechs, because I'm very closely associated with Gift City, and in Gift City also we have a center of excellence where we have a lot of people who are interested, and I don't see any difference between men and women there. I see the ratio similar. I think
Yes.
the problem starts with after the entry level, the middle level
Yes.
is
The high
where we
level job.
see, yeah, where we see a lot of women who, leave workspace because maybe because of multiple reasons, family reasons, child care, parental care, and all of those. Because I think traditionally and even non-traditionally, the society has not changed for women.
That's
So
true.
that's one gap that is always there. So while I see a lot of women doing well in academics,
Yes.
when I see a lot of women joining their first jobs and doing really well, I think the dropout rates being very high is something that's not really in women's favor. That is one thing that will change only when the society changes. I think that's where the change has to be seen as yet. And I think it's not specific to fintech. It's something that we have seen across industries.
Yes.
Right. So this is something that exists. Uh, as far as skills are concerned, I think women are no less, whether it is fintech or banking or any field for that matter. Of course, there are a lot of other things that women are definitely not good at. For example, politics is not something that women are definitely not good at. So that's one thing that they definitely suffer in an organizational setup where
Yes.
politics is going to be the part and parcel of life where a lot of people work together. So those are, I think, some areas where women have to improve. And I think the most important thing I would say, my advice towards the women is just come back, even if you're taking a break. For example,
Yes.
I also took a break, a marriage break, and some other kind of care break or some other breaks. Breaks will always be there in a woman's career, but the most important thing is to return and come back again and again and again.
Yes, that's true. So next we have a small rapid fire round where I'll be asking you some questions. So is there a quote, a book, or any habit that keeps you grounded during your tough days? Anything that you resort to when you maybe not having a good day? What do you do?
I think the only thing I tell myself is the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. Yeah.
That's a great thing to
I
follow.
think hope is a very powerful thing.
Yes, that's true. So, is there any personal goal that you're chasing right now?
There is a personal goal that I've been chasing for the last 10 years is to reduce 10 kilo of weight, but I don't think there's too much of success that I've seen there. But yes, that's a perpetual personal goal that I've been
I think
chasing.
that's something for everybody.
I think
Everybody's
that's
goal is that
something everybody's saying.
unable
Okay.
to achieve.
But building meat is again, not just a professional. to be extremely successful. So yeah.
Okay, that's nice to hear. Um, uh, you built NeoX and FreeOSay. What would you say the was a little more difficult to build when you were building those two?
I
Which was
think
the
NeoX
most
was
challenging?
definitely, yeah, NeoX was definitely difficult and most challenging because it was the first time. And when you are doing anything for the first time, you don't know what waters you are navigating. So everything was new. Nobody, in fact, it was so new that it was new for the entire industry. It was new for the regulator. It was new for the customers. It was new for the banks, for the fintechs, everybody. Yeah, so everything that we did was for the first time, and all the challenges that we faced were also for the first time. So there were no answers, there were no textbooks. We
Yeah.
we wrote those textbooks.
I read you built a different department in your bank to like
Yeah, so we
facilitate this.
created an entire fintech or a neo banking department
Yes.
because it became so huge that it actually became larger than some of the regions of the bank. So
Yeah.
while a bank had, say, for example, 5 lakh customers, adding 10 lakh customers in just, less than a year is
Yes.
something
That's
which
huge.
is so fast, even for a bank, that, you need a separate monitoring and an entire ecosystem within the bank itself to manage it. Having said that, there have been a lot of challenges because it was good to get so many customers, but then when you have something which is digital and which is easy for customers to open and use, it's also open to frauds. So we had newer innovations in fraud management as well, risk management as well. So I think, yeah, a tough journey, but a good one.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll ask you one last rapid fire because we have a few audience questions coming in. If you want in fintech, what surprising career path would you take? I think you will be saying you'd been a dancer, right? Something
Yeah.
you so yeah, you've already answered that. So I think we'll move on to the audience questions now. Um, hmm. Okay, so Mr. Manish Pawar asks one piece of advice you like to give for work-life balance.
Um, One definitely is, they say go home at the right time. There is no need to stretch beyond a certain point. And I think that has always stayed with me. And this is something I have always worked. And I still remember those were the old days in HDFC Bank when I started my first job, and I used to go home at 7 o'clock, and everybody's looking at me. Oh my gosh, she's going home so early, because everybody was used to going home at 9 o'clock. But that's something that I think has been practiced by me from the very beginning, because no matter how much longer you sit and work, that's not going to define the success. And that's not going to define, the success of your career, right? So it's important that you keep yourself rested. It's important that you go on trips. I still remember I used to take my vacation every year. Every year it's going to be either a foreign trip or a trip in India, but those 10, 15, 20 days I will always be out and not in office. And that's something I think refreshes you, enables you to keep, I think, come out with a lot of new ideas. And those ideas also help you in shaping your career. And that's a difference that you will always feel, that the way you are navigating your career is so much different from the way the people who are not taking leave and always doing the same thing around every day. I think that difference is very, very apparent. So
Yeah.
taking the right breaks is also very important. Yeah, and I think not just vacations. I think that there are people I have seen who also take study breaks for
Right.
1 year, 2 year. They definitely, or maybe a part-time study course that they may pursue along with their work, is also something that's going to have a far-reaching impact on the career, rather than just spending more time in office. So that's how you manage it, I
A
think.
great advice. Okay, so there's Sudha K. She's saying it was a wonderful session. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Any podcasts or people you follow for personal growth or keeping up the hope?
Uh, Recently, I do follow Ankur Warikoo.
Okay.
I think our thoughts definitely match a lot. So, otherwise, I don't have any other name to share. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Sanya Gupta asks, how do you approach decision making under pressure?
I think the best way to make a decision is actually not to make a decision under pressure. Giving it some time and sleeping over it
Right.
will actually help you clear up your thoughts. And I think the next day or the third day or the fourth day, maybe your thinking, your approach, or even your response would have changed. So the best thing is, under pressure, don't even take a decision. Don't take a decision, just delay it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Avantika Sharma asks, what skills do you think are most underrated today? Um, Avantika is asking, what skills do you think are most underrated today?
I think a lot of soft skills are underrated today, and I think a lot of soft skills are very, very important. One being, for example, being a team player and being a person who's easy to work with. It's a very underrated skill, but a very important one. It's something that I've realized, right? So I think that's very important. As a person, you need to be collaborative and open to other people's ideas. So that's important. Second, I would say, while most of the people don't talk about it, but it always exists, and which is understanding organizational politics and learning how to manage it. Yeah, so even if you may not want to participate in it, you at least need to understand it and manage it in such a way that you do not fall victim to any of those organizational politics. So I think these two skills definitely come to my mind right now.
Okay. Harsheen Kaur is asking, what's one habit that changed your professional life?
Okay. I don't know whether that's a good habit or a bad habit, but taking risks and changing roles is something that I have done constantly. So changing has been one very constant thing in my career. And I think that change is one factor that has actually shaped my professional life. So, I mean, whether that's a good habit or a bad habit, but I think it should be a good habit. Changing with times always helps.
Yeah, I agree on that. Okay, I think we'll take these many questions. Okay, I think we'll wrap up here. Thank you so much, Dr. Jasmin. It's great to know your story, and I've been following you on LinkedIn, as I said earlier, and I was too intrigued by what all you did. Like a dancer, you're just like a wholesome person who's not just into studies; she's into dancing, public speaking, everything. So it's something that everybody aspires to be. So thank you so much for joining me today. It was a truly inspirational session, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. Thank you so much for being here. It was lovely to have you with us today. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Shubhika. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.